actually Caitlin recorded.
Want me to start again?
It's recording.
It's recording now.
I have record of all the attendance.
Okay, thanks. And you have Jaden is recording also, please.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Peter. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting and a second?
So move. Jean.
Need a second?
I'll second. An outstanding job, by the way, Peter. Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't comment, but any comments from any others about the minutes besides high praise? Okay, all in favor then. I'll do a roll call. All in favor, say so by show so by saying aye. Mayor?
Aye.
Butch?
Aye.
Chief? David?
Yeah, I abstain because I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay. Carol?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Herb, if you've arrived. Steve?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Liz? David Singer, I abstain, I wasn't there. And Jean?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
All right. So we've gotten through that. So it sounds like, based on the way the agenda is written for this meeting, and maybe because of plans that some in the meeting may have, we're going, it's my understanding that we need to go into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at Main Street and Coombs Avenue if I declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of this public body. So I understand that it is appropriate to go into executive session now for those reasons. Before we do that, you should have gotten a link to the executive session, those that will participate. So what we're going to do is we're going to vote to go into executive session. If the vote is to do so, then those that should be at the meeting will leave this meeting, and this meeting will remain open for those in the public who are waiting to hear the rest of the meeting. We'll go to executive session. We'll then come out of executive session, and we'll come back to this meeting and keep going with this meeting. I cannot tell you how long it will take, but I think...
David?
Yes, Mayor.
I could speak to that. It will not be long. I have a brief update for everyone. And so maybe 15 minutes max, if we all get in and, we're able to get into the meeting and we can get it started. And then the rest of you can go back into executive session. Go back into this regular meeting. I will have to bow out because of I have to be at a Ways and Means meeting, which is what Liz is preparing for as well.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. All right, so may I hear a motion and a second to go to executive session for the reasons stated?
I move to go into executive session.
That's Butch. Who's second?
Second.
It's Steve. Okay, good. I'll do a roll call vote. Mayor?
Yes.
Butch?
Yes.
Chief?
Yes, do we have a link?
It should be a link in an email sent this morning by Caitlin.
Or I think it was yesterday morning.
Or yesterday.
It actually was sent on Tuesday, the 20th at 3:20 p.m.
Oh.
And the link for the executive session is below the link for the general meeting.
Neil, was that sent from Caitlin?
It was.
Okay, thank you.
I just replied all to it, so it should all pop up fresh in your inbox.
Thank you, everybody. Where was I with, who asked that question?
I did.
That's fine. So, do you vote yes to go to executive session?
I did, yes.
You did.
Thank you.
Want to repeat that? David M?
Yes. Yes.
Carol?
Sorry, yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Herb? Maybe it's here. Steve?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Liz isn't here. David Singer, yes. Gene Wall?
Yes.
All right, so let's all move as quickly as we can to get into executive session, and those who are waiting will be back.
I'm sorry, we're supposed to be leaving this call to go into executive session? Already?
That's right. So you leave this WebEx, it will remain open. You can open the other WebEx and then rejoin this WebEx.
Thank goodness for you, Caitlin.
See you soon.
All right. That's if I can figure this out. I got it.
Deputy, they just went to executive session if you have the other link in your email.
Oh, they did? Okay, well, I'll stay out of that. Thanks. They coming back or what?
Yes, after the executive session, the committee will return to this WebEx.
Very good. Thank you. I'll hang out.
You're welcome. Yes, shouldn't be too long.
Yeah, I only got another meeting after this one, so that's all good. I feel like
Okay.
Carlo.
How'd you guys get back? So you must have two computer screens. 3 computer screens. There, that's not fair. No wonder. Okay, those who have been waiting, we're back. Okay, everybody ready? Next thing on the agenda. I don't know, do we have to vote? We don't have to vote to resume, I don't think. Anybody know that? I don't think I've ever done this before. Usually it's at the end. If anybody thinks we need to vote to resume, speak now. All right, I don't think so since we haven't adjourned. Okay, new fire station discussion. I'm now the host. Hold it. Recording is in progress. All right, it's recording. Okay, who put that on the agenda and what is the discussion about?
David, do you want to do the minutes, approve the minutes first?
We did.
Okay.
Thank you. I think you voted yes. So if we have approved the minutes, Butch, do you know what new fire station, just a general, that's a general category? So.
Yeah, that was part of the generic, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was part of the generic piece, I think.
So this update report, is that a continuation of what was done for the last meeting?
Correct. Derek Pride was going to do some research on a variety of the systems that he presented last week, and he was going to update us.
Okay. So if there's no new,
Derek, I'm here. I'm ready to go. If you want to continue where we left off 2 weeks ago.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Please do.
Could you give me control of the screen?
Give you, yeah, here. How would I do that?
Let me see. I think it's letting me.
Thank God.
Give it a minute. Can you see my screen?
We're
You
good,
can?
Derek.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right. Let me make it big.
we're very trusting in Greenfield. We let everybody have control.
Yep. Let me switch mine. All right. Do you see full screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Fancy. All right.
Oh, it just switched to your
no.
other
Hold on.
presentation.
Give me. I'm working on it. Technical. I got excited for a second, Katrina. Swap. Display settings. So let's go back to doing these in person. All right.
When the fire station's finished, we'll have it together.
All right. So can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So thanks for having me back again. Again, I'm Derek Bride with Consulting Engineering Services. We are working with Pacheco Ross, Katrina, Adam, and Dennis on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection portion. Brian Hamill from my office is also on the line. He'll be my project manager helping out, so you'll get to know him as we go through the process. So I did put together some highlights for those of you that weren't there, but let me back up one sec. Carol, are you on the line?
I am.
Do you want to give an overview based on your email you sent the other day before I jump into this?
I hadn't really prepared anything, but I can just, I guess I heard some comments from people that I think we just need to clarify that this is what we're trying to achieve, given that this is a fire station, that obviously we're talking about the heating and cooling systems, but our overall goals of trying to build the most efficient envelope that we can so that we can move forward with an efficient HVAC system. So I'm sorry, I'm just kind of rambling, but
I know we've been busy. I didn't get to follow up. We've been busy putting this together. So just to recap for everyone, Carol sent over to my office some of the sustainability goals. I've been working a lot with Pacheco Ross in the envelope, and we want to put a very good envelope on this building. And then ultimately, we want to put in a very good HVAC system. There is a focus in the city of Greenfield, along with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and actually across the United States, to reduce carbon from buildings. So we do have some all-electric options in here. So we'll discuss that as we go through. So last week, I presented 4 systems. The third one being geothermal. We kind of crossed that one off the list. So we'll go through the ones that we have left. So the first one being the VRF and boilers. We talked about this being the air source VRF to feed the administration, living, and office spaces. And then this system would have a boiler that feeds the perimeter radiation in those spaces, along with the apparatus bay.
Hey, Derek, real quick, when you use the acronyms, can you just at least tell people what that means?
Thanks, Dennis. I get a little engineering sometimes.
I know.
It's variable refrigerant flow. It's a system that circulates refrigerant through the piping versus water. It's you may have seen one of those ones that goes high on the wall. It kind of looks like a rectangular box. Kind of, some people call them ductless splits, Mitsubishis, a variety of slang names, but it's a variable refrigerant flow system. So the option 2 that we talked about was also a variable refrigerant flow system, but this system would use some specialty units that would take that heat pump cycle from the refrigerant and produce hot water. That hot water would then go to the radiant floor in the apparatus bays and the support spaces. The VRF, the refrigerant to air system would feed the office's living area and bunk areas. The nice thing about this one, it is an all electric system. It is all carbon free. So that was good things about it. And this is the system that we discussed that we did in Lexington. Carol, I do owe you data on that, and we can continue that conversation after this meeting if we need to.
Great.
Was someone talking? The issue with system, or option 2, I would say, that we talked about last week was the generator size. And I mentioned that, in Lexington, we had a 700 kW generator. We ran some calculations. For this building, we're looking at a 500 kW generator for option number 2, whereas option number 1 would have a 150 kW generator. So, we're talking with George last week in this meeting. We talked about an option 2A. So I did not present 2A last week, but there's nothing different between 2 and 2A except I would put a boiler plant in that would feed the radiant floor and a duct coil in the DOA so we could heat the building in the event of a loss of power or in the event that any of the system needs to be repaired. So again, under normal operation, we would be a carbon-free building, but we would have that boiler there for backup emergency usage. And this would then reduce the generator down to that 150, 250 range, like some of the other options that we're talking. So significant decrease in the size of the generator.
What runs the boiler, Derek?
It would be
what energy source?
It would be propane, Dennis. So option 3.
I'm sorry, Eric, may I interrupt?
Sure.
I just have a question. In going through the minutes, I wasn't clear on this before, but you're sizing the generator for a 72-hour power outage
Yes, correct.
to run the whole building. Is that required by code or something?
That is not required by code. That's good practice for any municipal public safety facility. So police and fire stations, we like to size it for a 72-hour runtime in case there's ever an extended outage within the community and it needs to stay in operation.
Yeah, I just, in recent years, it seems like that's one good thing the utility has going for it is that we're seeing less and less outages, or at least less lengthy. So I didn't know if that, I understand that 2A is to also reduce the generator size, but I didn't know if maybe the chief wants to chime in.
Yeah, so I'd actually asked Dennis to see if that's an NFPA requirement. I will tell you that in my 20 years here, there has been a couple times where it's been 48 plus hours without that we've been running on generator. So I would not be comfortable deviating from that.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's an industry standard recommendation.
It's also, yeah.
Yeah, Dennis,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, but the only difference would be the size of the belly tank, right?
Neil, you stole my thunder. I was going to say that. Yes, the runtime on the generator does not change the size of the generator. It changes the size of the fuel storage. So the generator capacity for KW does not change. The amount of the gallons of diesel that goes in it does change.
All right, thanks.
No problem. So then we talked option 3, which was the geothermal, but I took that out of this conversation because we decided not to go down that route. And then we talked about option 4. It was the hybrid VRF electric and boiler. So this one would have 2 separate systems for the 2 distinct areas of the building. The apparatus bay would be fed by a propane-fired boiler, and then the administration living and bunk space would be fed by the VRF system. So again, it's the hybrid electric propane. The water systems would be sized at low water temperatures. There is newer air to water heat pumps that are coming to the U.S. They're not real reliable yet. And I would say in 5 years, I think I said this last time, in 5 years, we would be talking about that, but not today. So it gives you the option to go to that newer technology down the road. So here's the chart we spent the week putting together, and there's a lot behind this, even though it doesn't look like a lot. And I did send Dennis the full report so he can forward that out to those that want it. But here's the overall highlights. System number 1 had an EUI, and that's an energy use intensity. That's kind of a term we use to rate buildings like miles per gallon. In EUI, the lower is better. The more energy, the less energy your building uses, the better you are. So the first option had an EUI of 38.8. So not bad at all, but it was the highest of the 3 options, which actually did catch me a little bit off guard. Option 2 is an EUI of 35.6, which is the lowest of the three, which doesn't surprise me because the VRF all-electric system is the most efficient system going right now. And then the hybrid came right behind at 36.5. But if you look at the line right below it, the comparative energy costs, and I will preface this as comparative because these are using just normalized hours of operation per the type of use of the building. Obviously, climate for the year will change these numbers, and actual use of the building based on set points will change these numbers. But option one ended up being $37,000 a year to operate. Option two was 38, and then option three was just a little over between 35, 36, 35, 687. So it is very interesting when you see it, of where we go. So this is the chart I kind of wanted to start the dialogue with. We dial it down to three options. I think today I would like to get it down to, maybe two options, and then therefore we can write the schematic design accordingly, and then have the estimators estimate the two systems, and then we could make the final decision once we have the system, the one that we want based on the system, and then based on the cost. So with that, I'd like to open it up, and I don't know if anyone from the CMS or Pacheco Ross team has any comments they want to chime in, but that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Derek, a quick question from
Yep.
me. I know that you mentioned option 2A because that was kind of a variable on there. How does that fit into this chart?
Option 2A, we calculated the same as option 2 because the boiler is not supposed to run. That boiler in 2A is pure backup to reduce the size of the generator. And then there was some concern of the city, which is valid, that if the VRF needed a replacement part, it could be a couple weeks to get that part. So that would allow them to be able to operate in any condition and the station never goes down. So
Thank you.
no problem.
So I have a question, if I could.
Yeah.
So in a couple of the slides, it said not ideal for comfort. And I was wondering specifically on, our winters that we've been having lately. We've had stretches of really, really cold spells. And, the daytime is one thing, but is that reflective in like the overnight hours when it gets really, really cold? And how do the systems get affected when, you're talking, freezing or sub-freezing temperatures at nighttime? Because we are a 24-hour facility and it's not like we crank back on the heat at night.
Correct. No, I mean, it's when I write that, it's because there's no perimeter radiation, right? I mean, perimeter radiation gives you the best comfort in a heating environment. I have been talking closely with the Pacheco Ross team, and we're really looking at increasing the thermal envelope, putting in a real good window, putting in a great wall, which would alleviate that, which would make the building nice and tight. We would size the systems, obviously, to operate at the very low temperatures that you guys get up in Greenfield. 0 degrees is not uncommon at some nighttime, so we'd want to make sure that the facility stays warm at all those conditions.
Yeah, so if I could, I just want to remind everybody on the committee that, this isn't a typical office space, if you will. This is like a house, a home, where people live here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I just, as we make those decisions, I just want to make sure that we just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I will just put it out there too that this design team, we have completed this project before on numerous other fire stations. There's a lot of fire stations in the Commonwealth that do have a VRF system to serve all those areas. It's the system that, to be honest, if I was building a house, I would explore putting it in my own house. So I wouldn't recommend something that I don't like. It'll heat and cool and do everything you need to do. And, at the end of the day, some of the stations that we have it in, they don't even know it's not a boiler.
if I could. Derek, could you discuss how we might be able to integrate or how any of these systems would work with air sterilization systems, HEPA filters, UV lights, any of that?
Yep. So I didn't get too much into that because that's stuff that we would talk about a little bit later. But I can jump ahead. So with these systems that I'm talking about today are the ones that are going to do the space heating and cooling. On top of whatever we choose to do your space heating and cooling, we're going to have a dedicated outside air system. That system's going to bring in 100% outside air to all the occupied spaces, and then it's going to exhaust 100% outside air from those same said spaces. That would be the unit that we could look to put some alternative technologies in there. The one that we've been looking at the most on those and been using has been bipolar ionization. So that's something that we're looking at on a lot of projects right now. UV light with a DOA doesn't really work because you're exhausting that air out. UV light works when you're recirculating air. So those are things we would look at. The nice thing with the VRF is you would have a unit. Usually it's max 2 office spaces, 2 bunks, or we could look to make it, even 1-to-1, but we got to look at the cost when we get to doing that. But it doesn't circulate the air around the whole building. So it's just circulating it within the space or the space in the adjoining space that it serves. Does that answer some of the question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if that was something that had to be integrated with these options, that we talk about that. But
yes, correct.
Sounds like that's down the road.
Yes, we will talk about that, but it can be integrated to any one of these options. Really, the bulk of what we want to try to figure out today is really it comes down to a couple different things. Do we want a boiler in the facility? Does the city of Greenfield, or a boiler for normal operation? Does the city of Greenfield want to go carbon free? I know that's one of the goals is to try to go carbon free. And then ultimately it comes down to cost and energy, right? So option 1 has a boiler for the whole building. I kind of, not to steer anything, but I kind of see that one coming off the table a little bit. I don't know if there's any concern from really George and Carol were the ones that were talking the most last week. Option 2, I like it. It's all electric. And then if we put the boiler in for backup, it solves the issues that, the concerns we talked about. And then option 4 kind of is, I say it's a happy medium, best of both worlds. Kind of teeing you up for the future where you're not completely carbon free, but you did achieve a good portion of the building to be carbon free.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you just rank, I'm sorry, I went back to the previous PowerPoint from last time and I saw comfort mentioned in the 3 of the 4 options. Maybe I missed it. Where does option 4 sit as far as comfort?
It would be the same as option 2. Okay. Both options would not have a boiler. So we would not have perimeter radiation with those 2 systems.
And then can I ask just a total this, I don't mean to derail things question, but why don't we use radiant heat for the living quarters? Radiant floor. Huh?
It would be very expensive to put radiant floor throughout the whole building.
The other reason, again, is a comfort reason. There's a certain amount of lag time in how that system operates. And, to try to deal with the lag time, Derek would install thermometers outside the building and thermometers inside the space, to try to even that out. So the lag time in an apparatus bay, hey, it's not a big deal. But if you're in a bunk room and it takes, 4 hours for the thing to heat up because the temperature outside during swing time, fall or spring, or, you got a bright sunny day and then it clouds up and temperature drops 20 degrees, they don't react quickly.
That's a good point, Dennis. Yeah, that's part of it too. Swing season's a little difficult. I will say the one thing though that we've changed on the last one that we did in Lexington, we learned this, is we put in the makeup air units for the apparatus bay, which help it recover much, much faster. So,
Right, and I would also add on the living side, if you only had the in-floor radiant heat, you'd still have to worry about ventilation rates, cooling, et cetera.
yes,
So
that's it.
The only other thing I'll add, the underslab heating does not really allow you a tremendous amount of flexibility between spaces. Someone's a little warmer than one, a little cooler than another. It's tough to make that adjustment on an in-floor radiator, essentially.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I think it rates higher on comfort than the sort of all electric thing, just from experience, and it runs at a lower temperature. So it's not, but I get it.
And again,
industry.
I put all those out there because I do want to be, obviously full disclosure with everyone, but I do feel it may be a little disservice to say it's not comfortable because, again, with the enhanced thermal envelope that we're proposing on this building, no matter what system we put in, you're not going to get any drafts. It's going to have a very good vapor barrier, very good insulation exterior walls, and very good windows. So, modern building technologies have advanced tremendously in, reducing drafts and therefore getting better comfort in buildings.
Can I just add something? This is Jean. The comfort level, Bob, is based on the fact that an electric heat is blowing out at whatever you have the thermostat set at. If you have 80-degree heat, it's going to be blowing out at 80 degrees or 65 or whatever. And if you feel air at that temperature, you'll find that it's not warm like gas heat because that's blowing out at a much higher temperature. So that's the difference in the comfort, is the room will be whatever you've got set as your temperature. You're just used to having places in your home or at work where there is warmer air coming from another source.
All good points. Yeah, no, it'll discharge around 90 degrees when it's calling for heat, which is very, very comfortable. So that's good. But yes, it does not discharge at the the higher temps like a gas system would. So is there anyone that thinks we should keep option 1 in the mix moving into the schematic design phase? Or should we keep 2 and 4 as we move into the next steps of this process?
Derek, I have a question.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Kyle. Has there been an analysis about the cost of building these systems as compared to each other, and then compare it to the savings over time?
So that's the next step. So the next step after we try to narrow these down, like I said, we had 4 at the last conversation. I'm hoping to get us down to 2 tonight, and then that's what we would do. I would work with the Pacheco Ross team and our estimator. We would then estimate the cost of them, and then I could run the first cost, and then the 25 or 20-year ROI cost if you wanted. So again, I'm not trying to pin down one right now. I'm just trying to narrow it down so when we move into the next phase, I'd like not to do 3. I mean, we could if there's really not a consensus, but I'd like to get it down to 2.
Carol, just to follow up, it's just that I'm saying, even though number 1 has a strong carbon footprint, it may be really inexpensive to build, and then over time, it's not. Okay, so I just need to know that if I were to eliminate 1, it would be fine because there's no real cost savings. So Carol, take it from here, please.
Well, I will say I'm happy to get rid of number 1. And if I remember from your last presentation, Derek, option 2 was the lowest upfront cost and also had the lowest annual maintenance cost. It does seem to have a little bit of a higher energy cost annually. And so that's the one place that it's a little bit higher, but that doesn't include if we do solar to offset our electricity.
I was just going to say that, Carol. Yeah, the thing with option 2 is if you ever built an array anywhere in the city to offset the town's energy usage, that bill could then be cut down to 0.
Yep, I'm working on it. Or
So and again, that's a great point you brought up that you're working on. So if that's a goal of Greenfield to be able to offset all your electric with solar, then option 2, your electric bill theoretically go away. Whereas with option 1 and 4, you're always paying that propane.
right. And so can I ask a question just to clarify? And so I get that option 2 is all electric. Option 2A has this only for emergency situations backup boiler. Is that correct?
Yep, that would be 2A. Yep.
And then option 4 is basically, it's still a VRF, but I'm thinking of it in terms of, is this like a central heat pump where below a certain temperature, it would then switch to the propane boiler?
No, option 4 would be, think of the building as 2 parts, the living quarters and then the app bay. The living quarters would be the VRF, and then the apparatus bay would be the boiler.
Oh, okay. So
Because
I'm
the
really-
apparatus bay is the area where you really need a lot of that water. So again, we can make that with the VRF. It just costs a little more money, even though it's less energy.
All right. And then when you were talking about the air to water heat pumps that are coming online, that was with regard to option 4?
Option 2.
It was.
Yes.
Well, it seems like ding, ding, ding. That I like that one. And even 2A is
Yeah, I mean, I don't think 2A, Carol, is bad at all. I mean, it's normal operation. I mean, you should be running that boiler virtually never. So it's just there for emergency purposes.
Hey, Derek, do you have any feel at all on 2A for the cost of the boiler and whatever we have to install for the boiler? Are we going to save that amount of money on the size of the generator? And it's just a zero-sum game that takes care of emergencies.
There
with
would
no
be
cost.
I would estimate, Dennis, there's a cost savings there by putting that boiler in.
Yeah, that's even better.
I mean, to put a generator of that size is going to be very expensive, and that boiler plant will cost $100K, $150K tops.
Oh, that generator is humongous. At $500K, you're probably talking what, $400,000 for a generator?
I'm personally not worried about the 2A option with cost. Again, I think the 2A option it brings that generator size down. You saved all that money on the generator. The boiler plant pays for itself, and then it just you have a less of an eyesore on the site. And I know you'd appreciate that too, and so will the city.
We also don't have room for that, to put a 72-hour tank under a 500K generator is, the size of a semi-truck.
Correct.
Did at the last meeting, did we vote to eliminate options? Or maybe I should just say, if anybody objects to eliminating option 1, speak up.
Well, I wanted to ask a question beforehand, Dave, if I could.
Sure.
Derek, I wasn't at the last meeting. I don't have a lot of questions, but with option 4, the boiler that you're presenting for option 4, is that to heat the apparatus bay?
That is what I would be doing with the boiler. Yes.
Okay, because I am concerned about. I like option 2A with the backup boiler. I am concerned about the apparatus bay, having enough heat in it. I'd say without a boiler, if we just did option 2 straight without the 2A.
So option 2, if you missed the last meeting, so option 2 is a newer design. I talked about Lexington Fire Station. It's a project that this design team wrapped up about 8-9 months ago now. And that is the first fire station in the country that we did radiant floor in an apparatus bay with a heat pump. So the heat pump creates hot water, and it's a specialty unit, and we were able to achieve all the functionality of a boiler without using a boiler.
Okay.
And it ran all last winter, and everything was really good with it. So they were the guinea pigs, but they wanted to be very progressive.
Okay, and so they did it a straight 2. They didn't do a 2A for backup just in case.
No, they did a straight 2, and that's the one thing we learned with that option, and that's why when George mentioned the backup last time, Dennis and I started talking, and that was the one thing we learned on that project was that, yes, by not having that boiler, the generator gets very large.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Chief?
I'll
Thank
make the recommendation, that we explore 2A and option 4.
I'll second it.
Well, 2A and 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2, 2, and 4.
Specifically 2A.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
like-
no. Yeah, okay, 2A and 4. Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I'm sorry. I have that wrong. 2B or 2A, whatever the backup.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I'd like to, I mean, I think that those are okay.
All right, do you think we need to do a formal vote, or you think it's, did we do any voting last meeting about any of these issues? Because it sounds like there was some limiting.
We eliminated the geothermal just simply because of the site is not very conducive for that.
I don't think there was. I've seen it done. To be honest with you, I've seen it done both ways, where the building committee doesn't do a vote, or sometimes people like to do a vote just to cross your T's and dot your I's. I don't know personally the right example.
All right, but before we do that, then, just so I'm clear, Derek and Chief, the difference between option 2 and 2A is instead of a generator, there'll be a backup boiler.
No.
Not quite, Dave.
The difference between 2 and 2A is that we would have a smaller generator, which then would we would add a boiler for emergency power, which would allow us to decrease the size of the generator.
But otherwise, it would be the same.
Yes,
from the front end, point of view, it would be the same. From the back end,
exactly,
it would be
yes.
the same. Okay.
Yeah, the part that I'm concerned about with the option 2 being standalone is what George had identified as if we have failures or parts that go down, we could be without heat for a while, and having the backup, I think, is
No, I think that's a great option.
Okay. Well, I don't mind doing a motion. I can't see everybody because this is on the screen, but I can certainly hear everybody. So maybe we should do it just for the record, since this is these are options that we could do. So
I'm sorry, David, can I just ask one more quick question?
Anybody can ask as many more questions as they want. I can't see people, so I don't know where we're at. So if you interrupt me, that's fine.
So Derek, I just wanted to clarify on the EUI numbers. You said you punched in some kind of ballpark numbers. Is that based on the building being occupied 24/7?
Yeah. Yes, it is. And then we used the 18 cents that you gave us for electricity.
Yep.
And I think it was $2.87 a gallon for propane. That's what the mass.gov had as the 2020 annual average.
Wow. Okay. And I, just so you know, I did reach out to Eversource regarding the incentive for the building because their target EUI is 25, but given that this is a building that's in operation 24/7, that's not attainable really. So they have agreed that we can, still work because our target is still to reach that level of efficiency.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak on this? Okay, so I'm going to be more formal about it since this is kind of serious stuff. So the motion I would like to hear is a motion to eliminate option 1 and option 2 and move ahead with option 2A and option 4. Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second? Who's second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Butch?
Yes.
Chief?
Yes.
David M?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Herb, if you're here? Steve?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Okay, Liz is not here. Jean?
Yes.
David, yes. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. Derek, is that how you'd like to end your presentation, or do you have more to tell us?
I was going to end it with the question slide, but we already went there. So, no, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I really appreciate everyone's input and looking forward to the next steps. We'll work with the team to get some costs put on these and run some more numbers and be back in I don't know when we're coming back, but a month or so.
Okay, great. Dennis and team architect, from your point of view, is this the end of this presentation?
It's the end of Derek's presentation. We have some other, just general stuff to talk about, and
Okay,
Derek is welcome to stay if you want. I don't care.
I can stay till like 5:30, so I'm good, Dennis.
All right.
Okay, so again, looking at the agenda, Dennis, do you think we're past update by Derek, and now where would we be? Architectural review or some such thing?
Yeah.
There's a phase 2 evaluation from Neil. Is that something that you're prepared to do?
David, we spoke about that in the executive session, and just for the record, we're anticipating the report from Fuss and O'Neill at the end of the month, and everything seems to be leading in that direction. So we're not expecting anything different.
Great. Thanks, Neil. So since Derek might stay a little bit, or his team might stay a little bit, maybe let's go to architectural review. Dennis, if you think that's a good segue.
Yep, I think it's a perfect segue because I want to talk about a few things you might have comments on.
Good, thank you.
First thing is for the temporary structures. Adam's been doing a lot of work with Vanguard and with the Mahaffey, the tent guys. But today we got a message from Plymouth. Chief, I don't know if you've talked to him yet, but Plymouth is going to give us a quote for taking out the old system, installing it into the 2 tents. And as part of that, they have an additional fan and an additional control panel that they are willing to throw in for free for 2 years to make that system work better and easier, and just make it a whole lot easier to install in the 2 tents. The only thing they need to do now is need to contact the chief and find out exactly how he wants to arrange his vehicles so they can get the hoses and rails set up properly. So, Chief, I don't know if you've talked to them yet.
So I was out of the firehouse this morning when a representative came in and spoke with one of my lieutenants, and I have not had a chance to follow up. So I will follow up and get back.
Okay, appreciate that.
I believe the most of our hookups, I think they're all hooked up on the passenger side of the apparatus. So as long as
I think he needs to know like which piece will be in which tent, so he knows which rails to get over there.
I don't think it. Okay, I'll talk to him. I don't see.
Talk to him and just set him straight. We'll be fine there.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, great. And then Adam, I think you had a couple of questions also.
There was one item which has been resolved this morning, actually, just getting a hydrant flow test. I just received results from the city today on a recent test, which I believe will be sufficient, but we will find out shortly if that is exactly what we need or not.
Right, and then we got a ton of shop drawings and submittals on both the tents and the Vanguard trailers. Quite a number of questions, so we marked it up, sent it back yesterday, and let them respond. But that's in process.
Right. I would also add to that discussion, I've been in touch, and some of you have been copied on this, reaching out to the building department for the last questions on permit and safety for the temporary station.
All right, anything
else? I think that's it, David. That's where we're at on the temporary, so it's moving.
Great. And right next to it on the agenda is something called new fire station planning updates. Is that something that is anticipated or just generic?
Generic, I believe.
Okay. Temporary fire station updates, David, M, and Neil, and anyone else who knows?
Just in terms of progress, David, to segue onto the information previously presented by Dennis and his crew, field work is continuing. Utilities are being extended into and up to and under the structures. Sam has been doing a great job preparing the parking lots, removing curb, widening the openings. That work is all in process. We're in the process of procuring the plumbing materials, the cast iron that will be going under the structures. Vanguard will be on site Tuesday of next week to assist in the layout of the structures, where they're actually going to land on the ground, what the pier arrangement is that supports the structures in place, and to begin the coordination for the stub-ups of the utilities with Sam. Roger will be out there as well. In terms of our updates from Mahaffey, who is the apparatus bay provider, the first structure is scheduled for delivery the week of May 10th. And the second structure is planned for delivery May 17th. And they are looking at about 2 weeks to investigate each structure, to erect each structure. So things are progressing as we had presented and are planning. And we're hoping the app bays are done up by the end of May to be fitted out for the occupancy later in the summer. Everything seems to be on track.
Good news. Any questions of Neil? Yes, Peter.
I had a quick question. I don't know if it's Neil or Dennis or maybe Marlo, but did we plan any drainage to be added in the apparatus bay parking lot areas so we can wash trucks?
Yes, we have added drainage within both bay structures.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you,
Kate has
Neil.
one.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Oh, sorry, Kate.
I apologize. No, I hadn't raised my hand.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the temporary buildings being built on that parking lot, one of the discussion items raised by the contractors this morning was safety on site. We did not have on any kind of site plan a safety fence outline, but there is concern certainly for public welfare of anyone who may accidentally traverse the site during the construction period of these temporary buildings. Is this something that perhaps the city or DPW can look at specifically? Let me back up a little bit. We did require the contractors to secure their materials and protect their materials as they stage on site and as they construct. But safety fencing, for example, we know with the trenching work that Sam has been doing, he's got safety fence around those open excavations. So I wanted to ask and put it out there for thought and discussion. How should we be handling the safety on site?
Safely.
Neil, did you have any idea or suggestion how this may be accommodated or provided?
Under normal circumstances, Katrina, I would say that the contractor is responsible to provide safe working conditions for his employees and safe working conditions for the public when they're not on site. I think largely that turns into a means and methods, whether the trenches are plated or surrounded by fence or whatever. I would suggest that would be reasonable. That we see road plates all the time from March until November, and that's not an issue. So I would expect something along those lines would be appropriate. Marlo, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I agree, Neil. If we just get a lot of open areas, we may not have the fencing in-house to accommodate everything we want to do to keep the sites safe. You know, we may have to rent some fencing. Sam and I have been in discussion on that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring that to the larger group because it was raised by the contractors. And everyone is concerned about making sure the site is safe.
So just to conclude this, who's going to take charge of making sure that the contractors are satisfied that the site is safe?
Well,
Very good question.
I'll wait.
I think the contractors have to self-police here. I mean, obviously, if somebody sees something that's an issue, we're going to bring it up. But basically, it's a self-policing issue. You know, contractors are always responsible for public and personal safety. You know, if they have violations, you bring it up to them, get them to correct it immediately. Neil, do you agree with that?
I think that we need to have a safety plan, and we need to understand exactly how the site is going to be secured. If the contractor is responsible to secure the site, then they need to be known, and we need to see what that plan is. I mean, ultimately, if something happens, the city's going to be probably liable to some extent. So we really should agree on how the site is going to be secure, whether it's by a fence and what areas need to be secured.
Certainly, and we did require them to secure their materials in their work area. So they certainly have that starting responsibility. It's safety beyond that they were questioning.
The parking lots will be shut down from vehicle access, correct? So we're talking mostly foot access. Is that
correct?
Katrina?
Correct. Yes, that's the concern. You know, someone may have had a drink or two, and you know it's late at night or what have you. And
yeah, I think we need to talk about that, David, and have a plan. And we got to talk about putting some signs up. But I think we can't just have the contractor self-policing.
Right, they are not going to be there 24 hours a day. Every day.
Well, nobody is, but I think if you go back to exactly what Neil said, you have to be very, very careful about where means and methods starts and the city takes over, because that's where the liability issue is on that fine line of distinction. If we start telling them what to do, and that takes on means and methods, we've taken on that responsibility.
No, I understand what you're saying, Dennis, but I also understand that ultimately, if something happens on that property, it's town-owned property and the town is going to be liable. So we need to make sure we have a solid plan on how we're going to keep the public safe for that property during construction. We can't rely on the subcontractor to come up with that plan.
David, I have to say that respectfully, it is the contractor's responsibility to come up with a plan to make their area safe.
Okay. All right.
And they are obligated to present it to the city, and the city is obligated to accept it or not. But the city should not be dictating how to make a site safe.
Yeah, I'm not saying the city should be dictating how to make a site safe. I'm saying exactly what you said. If we're telling the contractor they're responsible, then we should be reviewing their plan and making sure it's acceptable, so nobody in the public has a chance to be hurt. That's all I'm saying, is that we should
Our
wing
inspections bureau in the city would do that.
Okay.
They review all plans.
Okay. Then David, let's ask for the contractor's plan for safety and make sure the safety department agrees upon it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't want to belabor it, but the fact that we own the land means that we'll be a defendant if somebody gets hurt, regardless of the contractor being in charge. So, Neil, I think, so Marlo, is the DPW out there all the time at this point?
No, we've been kind of in and out with different other things going on as we work through the plumbing piece. I consider the DPW as sort of, as weird as it may sound, a contractor to the city because we're doing some of this work. We're taking all our precautions that we need to under shoring and trenching and making our work safe. But it does pose the question that's interesting on the overall site. Just like when we do road work, we're responsible for our safe work area. So this is good discussion of where we go from here.
I guess if somebody were to at least oversee what's going on there on some periodic level, that would be the best thing. How we treat the observation might go to what Neil's talking about in terms of control, but at least there should be somebody out there in case it's really terrible, that somebody at the town hall understands or knows that. But, I don't know what degree we're worried about. If there isn't going to be a hole that's greater than a couple of feet, half a foot or a couple of inches down, and they're going to trip and fall, that's different than a deep hole where I would just hate to see somebody fall to their death or serious injury.
And David, Roger is on site. We try to make a daily visit every day, record and observe what work is being done. And certainly we would bring any recommendations we would have as to make a safe site to their attention immediately.
Okay, that's fine. That answers that. Then it sounds like you're in the first instance, you're doing it, and maybe Marlo in the second instance, if he saw something, I'm not. But anyway, go ahead, Marlo. You're going to say something.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Neil was saying. I mean, at the end of the day, when we're a contractor on any of our jobs, it's incumbent on us to follow all the safety regulations, shoring, trenching, site safety, traffic safety. So to back up what Neil was saying, it would be up to the contractors. It would be on them it'd be incumbent on them to do the same as they come in.
Okay. At least this conversation is making us aware that there's a vulnerability to the city, and I know we're all good professionals here, and we'll know something when we see it, but at least it's been discussed, so it's not, oh, I thought that person was going to do it, or I thought that person was going to do it. I'd rather we all do it, and there's overlap. So that's usually how it works out the best. So maybe we could end the discussion with that as how we've left it, unless anybody wants to add to it. Nope. Okay. Thank you. Good discussion. Anything else? Katrina, you had spoken. Anything else about anything with respect to architectural review, I guess is what we're on. No, temporary fire station. I'm sorry.
Nothing in addition to what I said before with the building department.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to move on then from temporary fire station. There is an item that says new fire station. I think I brought that up right. New fire station planning updates. That's generic. Real estate report. We did an executive session. Any new items?
Dave, just a few questions for the chief.
Sure.
I guess it could fall under planning subject. Chief, did you I wanted to ask about the housing the historic pump. Has there been any do we need to recircle, and has there been any progress? Do you need some help working on that as far as finding a location? Is there any updates on the storing the pump?
So I have a lieutenant that has been working hard on crafting some of the move. He has identified several spots and worked out locations for some of the equipment, specifically the hand pump. We have a tentative place. It's not ideal right now, so we are still in the process of trying to identify a temporary home for that. One of the ideas that have been floated out, we just haven't gotten to yet, was to see if one of the car dealerships in town that have a floor that they wouldn't mind sharing room with an antique as an option, but we're still looking at it. So I know he's got some ideas. We've bounced it back and forth, but I don't have anything new to report specifically on the hand pump.
Okay. And it sounds like you don't need any extra help with that. You guys are investigating options.
I always love ideas, David.
Okay, I like the option of a car dealership maybe displaying it or something like that. That makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah, we'll take any ideas people have specifically when it comes to that. That is a very important and valuable piece of firefighting history for this department. So it's extra attention for that, and we'll take any recommendations or suggestions that anybody would have.
Well, Chief, not facetiously at all. Why don't you talk to the Toyota dealership and see if they'd like to put it on display?
It's on it's on the to-do list, Dave. Dennis.
All right, good.
do you need a volunteer? Do you need a volunteer to go speak with them?
If you would like to, that would be fine.
I would
Okay.
volunteer to do that. Could you give me the dimensions? Could you send me the dimensions? I'll speak with them.
Sure, we'll get that for you right away.
Okay, great. And then as far as storage locations for temporary storage, are we good with finding locations? I know you have the storage units, but other storage locations for other things. Are we good with that? Do we have some leads or ideas?
We do, including we have several for several different purposes. A place for paper, like old reports and stuff like that is in one location. The warehouse that the city owns down on Riddell Street, which was going to be the fire station location, is another location. There's dry sections in that. And so we're pretty confident that what we have right now is going to be good. We have the two trailers down at the lot that we're moving in. We have the shelving for that. We haven't put it together yet, but the shelving's ready to go. I noticed the other day when I was in the basement, the lieutenant's already packing. So there's boxes of stuff already packed, ready to go, including we've gone through 70 years worth of paperwork and have all boxed up what has been deemed as disposable according to Mass General Law. In one pile, and the rest that we have to keep in another pile. So we've been able to condense down a lot of that. So there's a lot of work going on with that.
Okay. Great job. Thanks. Let us know if you
Thanks,
need
Chief.
assistance. Thank you.
Anybody else have any new items? Okay.
Yeah, I got one. I don't want to grandstand here, David, but I am going to be out of commission for a couple of weeks. Kate and Adam are more than capable of handling stuff. So, when you don't see me at the next meeting, don't worry about it.
Well, have a successful operation so you can ski.
That's all that matters. I got to outdo Butch. I got to keep ahead of Butch. That's all that
Won't be
matters.
able to necessarily walk the same way, but as long as you can ski, that's good. Okay.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Okay, any other new items? Oh, so next meeting, if I understand it correctly, we meet on the second and fourth Thursday of each month. Do we think we still need to meet twice a month? Dennis, before you leave, you want to make an administrative guess on that?
I'm not worried. I think where Adam and Kate have everything in terms of the submittals, working with all the contractors, they're very well under control.
No, I understand that. Please, Katrina and Adam, that wasn't the question. The question was generally, should the committee now at this stage be meeting once a month or still twice a month? Is there enough happening every month that we should meet twice a month, or can we meet once a month?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we meet twice a month just until we get those temporaries out there on the site?
Okay.
And then once they're out there and things are moving along, I think, these can push out. Neil, do you agree?
Fine with me.
Yeah, I'm big at cutting as many meetings I can, but I think twice a month is still very appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So next meeting is May 13th. Thank you for all your good work and attention in today's meeting. And may I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Butch,
Yes.
Chief,
Yes, thank you, everybody.
David M.,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Herb, if you made it, Steve,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
yes, Liz isn't here, Jean,
Yes.
and David Singer, yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the cold weather.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Welcome, bye.
Take care.